I've been travelling to North Korea for over 20 years. I first went there in 1997. I've been travelling. I've travelled there on almost 50 occasions. I think I'm about 48 or 49. Frankly, I've lost count. When I'm there, I tend to meet with the party. I mean, what I'm trying to do is to give a more nuanced impression of North Korea. I mean, most books about North Korea paint it as entirely black. One or two describe it as socialist paradise. Frankly, it's neither. It's greys rather than blacks and whites. I mean, many of the shades of grey are quite dark, I have to say, but nevertheless, it's a different world. And secondly, there's a great misunderstanding about North Korea. I mean, there's a whole series of myths. I mean, one of the myths is that it's actually a communist country. No, it's a theocracy. You can argue when it actually gave up being Stalinist communist, but I mean, now it's about the Kims work miracles. Rainbows open above their cars. Birds fly along with the cars and everything else. This is a religious cult. This is not a communist country anymore. I mean, secondly, that they're very close to China. No, they have a very toxic relation with China, and in fact, I've been told by senior members of the party, if necessary, they'll fight China. There's also the view that it's still a command economy. It's essentially a market economy now. I mean, you can buy an Omega Speedmaster, the watch that was worn to the moon. It will just cost you 2,000 years' salary for the average civil servant. It's on display in Pyongyang. You can spend a month's salary on a pizza. And in Pyongyang, there's an enormous privileging of the people who matter, because the people who matter live there. There are dolphinariums, restaurants, water parks, and everything else. So it's a very, very different country. And lastly, I suppose I would say one of the myths is that they're interested in unification. Everybody says that they want North-South unification, but people in the North are very well aware that they will just be swamped, they will just be assimilated. They have an economy that's 40 times smaller. What they want is the freedom to grow their economy. They believe they can become like Asian tigers, and then maybe we revisit this in 20 years' time after 20 years of 10% growth. But at the moment, it's, if you want, two countries, one system is the way forward. Now, the nuclear deterrent has actually been developed not from a position of strength, but weakness. The problem with North Korea is that its military budget, and everyone gets very excited, its military budget is actually smaller than that of Australia. And the South Koreans outspend the North Koreans militarily year on year. They spend a lot less as a percentage, but they've got an economy that's nearly 50 times bigger. So on that basis, they're outspent. In terms of spending compared to Japan, the United States and South Korea, they spend less than 2%. They are, in the conventional arms race, they're not losing, they've been outlapped. So nuclear weapons are about, if you want, dealing with that problem. They can't put any more money into the conventional military. They'd be, already they're spending something like a third of the GDP. So nuclear weapons are to deal with that issue, but also with a second issue, because they have a vision, probably a rather old-fashioned vision of how you grow the economy, and they think it relies on a lot of manpower. They have visions of large factories, and the problem is that there's no great pool of peasant labour. It's all sequestered into the military. So nuclear weapons also gives an opportunity to decant some of that labour into the factories of the future, which are going to grow the economy. Because Kim Jong-un needs two things to survive. He needs not having regime change from outside, and he's learnt the lessons of Iraq, Libya, Syria. The problem there was not having weapons of mass destruction, not having them. And he also, the other threat is if he doesn't grow the economy. People in Pyongyang have never had it as good. He needs to keep it that way if he's going to survive for the next 20, 25 years.